Okay, hello, good morning. I promised to start at 9, and here we are. I think it's 9:01. I apologize. We are now entering my favorite part of any conference, which is the audience participation part. I don't know if you remember yesterday, I said open yourself up to the unexpected, and that I may ask you about it. We've arrived at that time. There's a little bit of a prize, so I'm coming down into the audience like, Oprah style or whoever's cool now. Okay, so I would love it if somebody could tell me a story about something that happened yesterday during the day, not night. Something that happened here that was unexpected that you're excited about. And I might start oh, thank you. We have our first volunteer.
Hi guys, I got to go to the Yet We Rise brunch yesterday and got to make some incredible connections and meet BIPOC leaders who were on the front lines of food waste. So it was unexpected. I was invited last minute and I had an absolute blast.
Amazing. Thank you for being first. And you get a chocolate bar. You don't have to share with your table, but you can. I have a variety I'm just gonna pull out. You got a brown rice quinoa crunch. Okay, did that get anyone else excited to share? You might get a tofu toffee. Okay, here we go.
Hi, Sue Marshall of Net Zero, and I won the pitch competition, and I had no idea even that I was going to do that, and I won, so cool.
Oh, round of applause for that, a surprise pitch competition. I love it. All right, this is like spinning the wheel of chocolates. Orange chocolate. Okay, do I have another volunteer for during the day? Something unexpected during the day. I will pick on people if I don't get a hand. Oh, is that a hand? No, that's just a finger. No, yeah, oh yeah. Okay, you were not raising anything. That was just a finger. Okay, misinterpretation. Okay, anyone else? I'm gonna pick someone near me, so. Interesting, very interesting. I can wait a long time. Really? Okay, this table, can I get a volunteer about something unexpected that happened yesterday?
All right, okay. No, thank you, absolutely. Just being able to listen to, so many testimonials, and yesterday listening to Dr. Laura speaking about food as medicine, and really nothing tremendous. Just the fact that it was so kind of taking the words right out of my own head, if you will. So that was very unexpected to hear, and so I'm sorry I don't have a whole lot.
No, you did a great job. Give him a round of applause. You did a great job. Thank you. And I just had an innovation. This should be like a deck of cards. You pick your own chocolate out and see what you get. I apologize to our other two winners. I did not. I just thought of that. Okay, I want something unexpected that happened last night. Dinner, conversation. Maybe you saw a comedian pop up that wasn't supposed to at a show. I've been to an event where that happened. Yes, here we go.
Salsa dancing on the waterfront.
That's definitely a round of applause. I love it. I love it. Okay, pick a chocolate, any chocolate. All right. Another thing last night. Salsa dancing was good. Can anyone beat that? Oh, here we go. Okay, she will not beat it, but we're gonna try.
Okay. So someone that I met at a conference last week, I've been connecting with her this week here, and I went out to dinner, and she was sitting at the table next to me.
And then what happened? Did you guys talk?
Well, yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure. I didn't want it to be like weird. Okay. I love that. You tied it up perfectly. Okay, pick a chocolate. Okay, I have one bar left. Oh, yes, here we go.
Two.
I'll bet you next.
It's too late.
I'm coming back. I have another chocolate.
I want a chocolate bar. I think I can beat salsa dancing. No offense, but I was gifted tickets to the ball game last night behind home plate, and the Orioles won. I think that beats salsa dancing.
Wow.
And now,
What did you get? You was the last one. Almond Brittle Crunch. Congratulations. Okay, there was a lot of energy in this back corner, so I'm going to pick up one. Thank God I got a lot of chocolates. Where was my table? Where was that excitement over here? Oh, you know what? I just realized my other chocolates are downstairs, so I'm going to owe you one. Okay.
Oh, no worries. Thanks. It was so unexpected. I came across Edgar Allan Poe's burial site.
Nice. I owe you a chocolate. What's your name?
Diane.
Okay, Diane, I'm going to make sure I find you. Okay, awesome. I would love to play this all day. Honestly, if we had the time, I would. Unfortunately, we cannot do that. Okay, we're going to get rolling as soon as I get back up there. Thank you for playing this morning's game. Okay. I did have a comment on social media. We do encourage people to post things on social media, hashtag food waste. Hold on, I want to make sure I don't say it wrong. That'd be really, Food Waste Summit 24 is the hashtag, and @refed. The other thing we wanted to mention, because there was so much coverage yesterday about the Secretary's announcement, we really do encourage you spreading that specifically on social media. It's a really great opportunity to try to get that word out. I know I've already sent it to some people who work in this space, and we would encourage you all to do the same. Okay. Every year when ReFed selects a location, there's always questions about why. Why that city? Why this city? And a lot goes into it. There's cost, accessibility, venue availability, et cetera, et cetera. But the other thing that's very important is, of course, what is that city doing about food waste? And Baltimore, hopefully many of you have learned that Baltimore is really out in front in this arena. And it's, for me personally, it's been really interesting to watch this week. So all of that went into the selection when ReFed decided to host here. And we are very excited to be welcoming, sorry guys, this is the last day, I didn't memorize anything. We are welcoming to the stage Secretary Russell Strickland. He's the Secretary of Emergency Management at Maryland's Department of Emergency Management. Hope I got that right. He's also the co-chair of the Maryland Food System Resiliency Council, which is part of its mandate to fight food insecurities, making long-term recommendations around food waste reduction as part of its efforts to increase the sustainability and resilience of the Maryland food system. He's a lifelong Marylander, born and raised, and we just chatted about Ocean City, Maryland, and we had a little chat about New Jersey, so he's a wealth of information. Okay, so welcome to the stage, please, Secretary Strickland. Do you want this one?
Yeah, probably, because I'm going to try and follow my notes.
Testing. Oh, that is on. Okay, apologies. You're all good.
Okay,
all
thank
set.
you. Good morning. Let me start out first with a real thank you to all of you for coming to Baltimore. First off, let me describe myself. We're very much interested in diversity, equity, and inclusion, to include accommodations. And if there's any of you who have some visual challenges and can't see me or see me clearly, I stand before you at the podium. I'm going to stay at the podium because I have some notes I really want to follow reasonably close. But I'm a white male, graying to white hair. If you could see my face, it's probably really red because I sat yesterday for close to 90 minutes out on the dock as we reopened the federal channel, but in the heat and the sun. So that most definitely deserves a round of applause. And I'm in a brown suit. I've got a really pretty tie, but I can't describe it. So you have a visual of what I look like. But I can't tell you how excited I am, and I'm going to go off script, at which point in time now my comms group is going, oh, geez, there he goes again. You know, why do we even make these notes up? Well, that's because that's what I pay you for. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. That's not fair to them. But I really do want to thank you all for coming to Baltimore and to the state of Maryland. And you know, our word today is Maryland tough, Baltimore strong. And since March 26th, with the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse, we have united with the city of Baltimore, really 2 to 3 counties involved, all kinds of state, local, federal, governmental partners, private sector, nonprofit sector, and faith-based community to save and maintain the Port of Baltimore. And folks like you attending a conference in Maryland and in Baltimore means a tremendous amount to each and every one of us here. So we, from the bottom of our heart, really, really thank you. And that thanks comes not just from me, but it comes from Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller, who have been on the front lines through all of this. So you've had the opportunity to be aware that we're opening have opened 100% the harbor. And then in addition, you happen to be here during a week of what we call Fleet Week. And there's all kinds of excitement in the Inner Harbor and around Baltimore because of that, with an air show as well as a nautical show. So I would ask that you take full advantage of that while you're here. So with that, let me go sort of back on script, not 100%, but a little bit back on script. Only from the first question you're probably asking is, what's emergency management got to do with food? Well, other than we eat it, not necessarily a whole lot, other than at the time of a disaster, one of the 4 main principles we focus on, which are alert and warning of our public and communications to our public. Secondly, whether or not we have to evacuate or not. And third is sheltering, and whether we have to open up sheltering, which requires food. And then fourth is recovery. And recovery is focused on our survivor. And one of the essentials for our survivor is food. But still, why is emergency management involved with that? Why can't I just designate that to someone else? Well, I'll share with you the story why we're wrapped into, and I'm very happy to be wrapped into, food and food systems resiliency for our state. So COVID hit, and with COVID, we had all kinds of challenges. And as compared to any other disaster, emergency management, particularly at the state level, but working with all of our local partners, all of our partners, we experienced a time that we have not experienced before. And that was, we could not dial or call a friend. We have an emergency management assistance compact nationwide that allows us to move assets, resources, whatever's needed from one state to another through pre-arranged agreements. In this particular case, we could not. It just simply wasn't there because everybody was defending for themselves, and rightly so. So we had to be very shrewd about what and how we did things. Well, through that, we had a truckload of food came into one of our jurisdictions, and I don't know how the call got routed to me personally, but it did. And the fact of the matter was there was no one ready to receive that tractor-trailer load of food. We lost an entire tractor-trailer load of food. I'm also very emotional. That's unacceptable. That's almost immoral. And I don't like it. So with that, we really tightened up to make sure where and how food was arriving to all the different sources that it can arrive to within the state of Maryland. And the outcome of that was a lot of silent but mighty uproar from our local jurisdictions who were saying, you know, we had a terrible time, more than normal, which is really unacceptable, but more than normal with food through the pandemic. And there's some senators in our state who, through the last several years, and I really don't know the what or why, other than emergency management never says no. We rise to whatever the particular occasion is, and we accept whatever challenge is handed to us. But they came to us and said, this is a problem, and it needs coordination. It needs major, major coordination. We're going to write a bill, and we want this in a state emergency management. And I said yes. And the reason I said yes was I had had that experience. The other reason I said yes was I've spent a lifetime in public safety and public service. I've never said no. And I know that when it comes to a disaster time, if your resources and assets are not working well on a sunny, bright day, you're going to have challenges when you have that dark sky day. The 911 board is located in our department. I am very, very, very proud of the 911 system in the state of Maryland. It's absolutely phenomenal. I started out at 16 as a local police department part-time dispatcher before 911 ever existed. So I understand the importance of somebody being able to pick up the phone and say, what do you need? And then quickly, from the time of ring, ring to beep, beep, and there's an apparatus, an ambulance, a police car on its way to you. And my goal is, why is not food the exact same way in the state of Maryland? And that's what we're pushing for. So let me go back to my talking points, because I think that will really sum it up. Does that mean I only have 50 seconds left? I'm 42, 41. So with that, in the state of Maryland, we created the Maryland Food Security Council. It's working really well. I got 29 seconds. But we're looking at the entire cradle to grave of food. And what is it we can do to improve that from a state coordination level back down to our local level with our local partners continually, day to day. And that food is more than just food in somebody's mouth. It's nutritional food. It's the cycle of food. It's the cycle of food waste, of which we are really looking at in Maryland as part of it all. And that's why, well, now I'm back to 2 minutes and 43 seconds. Oh, they're giving me 3 more minutes. All right, all right. So that's why we're involved in all of this, is that we want to coordinate, we want to collaborate, we want to communicate and cooperate with everyone to bring them to the table so we can solve our food issues and ultimately be, in my mind, when a disaster hits, much more stable and ready to serve that as we need to. So the group has been together for 3 years now. We are permanently housed. It is permanently housed Within our state emergency management office, and then with our state emergency management office, we have an Office of Resilience, and that's where it lies. I sit as a permanent co-chair of the group, and we have cross-representation of our local jurisdictions, our local universities, our state universities. Johns Hopkins is also involved, the food banks, the food councils at the local level. It's a real cooperative adventure, and it's actually very, very rewarding. We've made several very strong recommendations to our state legislature, because that's basically who we are responsive to. We will continue to do that, but we will continue collectively holding hands moving forward to bring together the food problems we have in this state. And again, just a real piece specifically on recycle that I know you folks are very, very attuned to and interested in. We have traveled the state. We have seen different programs and variations of how that could work in our counties. We're in that direction. It's been a real learning curve for all of us as to what we can do and how we can do it, but collectively together we're going to do it, and we're going to continue to work on it. So with that, I'm down to 24 seconds on my second 3 minutes, and I didn't read any of the notes from my staff, which means if Ed, don't you tell anybody, and we'll be in good shape with that. So while you're in Maryland, please eat crabs. And there's a lot of waste from a crab. There is. The oysters, this is not a month with R in it, so the oyster people now just get annoyed with me, but I'd be very careful with that. And then more than anything, we have a couple invasive species, the blue catfish, as well as the snakehead. Snakehead is absolutely the ugliest fish you've ever seen, but it tastes incredible. So please avail yourselves to that. And with that, I'm into the minus time. So thank you all for coming to Maryland.
Fantastic. That was awesome. No, you're fine. I wanted to give you a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you so much, Secretary Strickland. That was awesome. I think everyone in this room shares your passion and even emotion around this topic. So that was awesome. But one more round of applause. I've always been a big fan of Baltimore, as I mentioned yesterday, in Maryland, but I just feel like as Secretary Strickland spoke and a lot of what I've learned, I know I have a completely new appreciation for this area and this state. And we're going to dig more into that in this next session. So I'm going to bring up Yvette Cabrera from the Natural Resources Defense Council. I don't know why I'm stumbling. She's the director of the Food Waste Program, where she oversees engagement on federal, state, and local food waste policy and cutting-edge research on food waste. Yvette, come on up, and I'm going to have her introduce us to the rest of the panel. Welcome. You can have this. This is also mine, and all of these everyone has their own. Okay.
We're going to welcome our other panelists up to the stage and get started in a bit. All right. Thank you all so much for having us. Thank you, Christina, and thank you, Secretary Strickland. Really lovely to be able to giggle with a crowd of so many people so early in the morning, so thank you for that. Just a quick note to everybody, we will be taking questions at the end, so if any questions come up throughout, please save them, and we'll have someone running around with a mic. Okay, let's get started. Imagine a city where every piece of food that could be eaten was, and every piece of food that couldn't be eaten was, instead of heading to a landfill or an incinerator, transformed into a resource, fueling a sustainable and vibrant urban environment. With 80% of the US population living in cities and around cities today, generating 105 billion pounds of food waste, The need and the potential impact of urban food waste solutions is critical, and it will only continue to grow. As Christina said, my name's Yvette Cabrera. I'm the Director of Food Waste at NRDC, Natural Resources Defense Council. And through one of our programs, the Food Matters Initiative, we partner with dozens of cities around the country, like Baltimore, to develop innovative and transformative food waste solutions. And since 2017, we've collaborated with Baltimore to implement strategies that range from educating residents on how to better store food in their fridges, to hiring a food sourcer in the city that would be able to source high-quality surplus food and get it to residents who could eat it. And our partnership has had many successes. It has led to the launch of the first ever city-run food scrap drop-off pilot program, a citywide consumer education campaign, the integration of food waste goals in the city's climate action plan, and it laid the groundwork for many of the achievements you're going to hear about during our panel this morning. But before we get started with today's wonderful panel, I'm going to ask you all to use your imagination for a bit for some storytelling. This story was actually adapted and inspired by a story in the Baltimore Climate Action Plan, which, if you haven't seen it yet, it's well worth a read, especially for you city folks who love to geek out on climate action plans. And in this climate action plan, they outlined steps that the city will take to reduce emissions through actions like addressing food waste over the coming years. So please watch our amazing illustrator up on the screen as I talk. We'll have this illustration done throughout our full panel discussion today. And let's get started. The year is 2030, 6 short years from now. The year we as a country have targeted to reduce food waste by 50%. Cities, states, the federal government, food businesses, and civil society have all stepped up to make this happen. We're all on the same page. Wasting food is something we are solving now, and it will not be part of our future. Many of the solutions being implemented are happening in cities, where the majority of the US population lives, works, and plays. Cities like this one, Baltimore. One Baltimore resident, Camila, really loves to eat yogurt with banana and granola for breakfast, but she's always left with that hard-to-use banana peel. So when she bikes to work, she makes sure to swing by the park where there's a compost bin the city has set up to drop off her banana peel and the other food scraps she's collected. Camila's job at the elementary school as a sustainability coordinator is to help the school become more sustainable, but also to teach the students and the teachers how to live a more sustainable life at home and at school. And today, she's teaching a workshop on, guess what? Food waste. The workshop kicks off with Camila introducing a lunch tray sorting game. The kids put on gloves and start sorting all of the lunch tray's contents. Food scraps over here, leftover food over here, recyclable containers over here, and so on and so forth. Camila asks the students, all of this food we have sorted over here, this doesn't need to get thrown away. What are some of the ways we are using it instead? And Deshaun's hand shoots up and he says excitedly, there's a whole apple on the share table. I love apples. And all the kids giggle and begin pointing out other food that used to get thrown out before they had their share table. Katie, another student, points out that there aren't any milk cartons anymore and only empty glasses since the school switched to a milk dispenser where students can serve themselves however much milk they want. Camila says, those are all great ways that we have made sure that food doesn't go to waste, but there will always be some food parts we can't eat, like those eggshells. So we're going to put those food scraps into the compost bin here. Tonight, the city will pick up this bin from right in front of our school, and they're going to take it to Bowley's Lane composting facility on the east side in Frankfurt, where they're going to turn these food scraps into compost and help us return those nutrients back to the earth. And why is that important? What do we say? And the kids shout together, because we love the earth. That's the motto of the elementary school, so the kids know it well. Today, the students learned that organic materials like banana peels, eggshells, and leaves can be recycled into something helpful for the environment. Composting is becoming a way of life for these students and for their families. Over time, community members have been amazed at how much less trash they are throwing away and how beautiful and healthy their community and gardens have become. As a reminder, it's 2030. The city of Baltimore has reached the goal it set for itself back in 2019 to reduce food waste 50% by 2030, and is a model for other cities working to do the same. They've already set up organic recycling bins throughout the city where residents can drop off their food scraps. They have a state-of-the-art composting facility that churns out high-quality compost year-round and a robust community composting network. Their thriving food donation network makes it easy for businesses to donate food, their surplus food, and for residents to access it. Their research-backed food waste behavior change campaign can be seen on billboards, bus shelters, and TVs throughout the region. And each school and city-owned institution has a sustainability coordinator, like Camila, who helps the city's sustainability efforts, like composting and teaching students how to use share tables. Now, Baltimore is aiming to achieve their next goal, reduce food waste 80% by 2040. But they're not worried. They've been successful so far, and they've done this before. And now that Baltimoreans have seen what their city could look like with less waste, there's no turning back. All right, thanks for entertaining that piece. I hope you enjoyed envisioning what a city could look like with us, and imagining where we might be in 2030. And we are well on our way to getting there. So now I would love to turn to our panelists to hear about the work that they're doing in Baltimore today and in the state of Maryland to move us towards this vision. And I'll just say, I'm so honored to share a stage with these change makers, many of whom I've known for a very, very long time. So I'm going to just transition over here and we'll get started. All right, so we're just gonna pop around a bit here, but Ava, I wanna start with you. Ava is Baltimore's Director of Sustainability. Ava is one of the people I've worked with the longest through our Food Matters initiative. Ava, can you tell us more about food waste work in Baltimore and how it has evolved over the years?
Absolutely. Well, good morning, everyone, and just want to echo Secretary Strickland's words. Thank you all so much for REFED and NRDC for hosting here in Baltimore. Thank you for that introduction, Yvette, and for the beautiful story inspired by our climate action plan. I really just have to it's such a great opportunity to reflect and think back when I first started working on the Food Matters Project, when I came to the city's Office of Sustainability in 2018 as a Food Matters technical advisor, and met Yvette and her team at NRDC, and I think it was Darby and a bunch of other folks on the food waste team who were providing a lot of technical assistance to help us do a 2-year deep dive on food waste. In many ways, that was kind of like a 2-year graduate program on food waste, because I learned so much, and it was such an emerging field, and it was such a great way to kind of acclimate to the field of climate mitigation and adaptation through the lens of food waste in particular. And in that time period, in 2019, we started the city's first food scrap collection program and partnered with farmers to take those food scraps back to their farm. And one of our farmers was a hog farmer, or is a hog farmer, Paul's Farm, and they are still going strong with that program today, diverting those food scraps to feed her hogs, and she sells her product at our Waverly Market. We also supported, as Yvette mentioned, the initiation of a food sourcer that was focused on supporting food rescue across the city. We supported launched a Baltimore food waste reduction working group that was really intended to bring together all the stakeholders and players in the food waste sphere. We hired my colleague, Sophia, who is now in our Department of Public Works leading Zero Waste Works. She was hired as a fellow to support some of our food scrap collection work and our composting work. We also, at that time, were really thinking critically about prevention. So Yvette mentioned the kind of social media or social marketing campaign that we supported. A lot of that work kind of hinged on engaging with large institutions such as the Baltimore City school system to really better understand how inventory management and inventory tracking can support in food waste prevention efforts. We engaged with restaurants to support some of that food waste reduction at that kind of business business-facing level within the restaurant industry. And we also hosted an engagement with educational institutions as well as hospitals, our Eds and Meds convening, where we were really trying to get some more substantial commitments from those big institutions where we know a lot of food waste was coming out of to reduce that volume that was coming. We made a tremendous amount of progress, and I think, as Yvette said, it really did build such a strong foundation to build from, and now I'm so proud of where we are. We know we have so much farther to go, but we are really excited to see more infrastructure for reducing food waste continue to come to the city, especially with a slated composting facility that will be coming. But with all the federal funding that's out there right now, it really set us up well to think and be really aspirational and visionary about where we want to be in the next 5 to 10 years when it comes to how we're implementing on our climate action goals, and what it looks like to leverage this federal funding to meet our climate action goals, meet reduction goals for emissions through our food waste work. So, and I think that I'll stop there. And I really do just have to, again, applaud the team at NRDC for all the deep work they did with us in Denver as kind of like the two cities that were doing that deep dive on engagement, and all the assistance that they provided in terms of providing small grants to communities or community groups working on food waste, as well as all the direction and support and encouragement at times, because it wasn't always easy, but we really worked hard to get through it.
Well, thank you for that, Ava. And it's been our pleasure to work with you all. So now let's turn to Sophia. Sophia is Baltimore's Zero Waste Manager, which is a new role in a new office for the city, which anyone who's ever tried to create a new role in the city can attest to how hard that might be. So we're super excited that this role exists. But as you heard from Ava, one of the, they've really tried and tested solutions across different sectors and different approaches. But one of the things that the city's been really focused on is composting and food scraps. So I'd love to turn it to you and tell us a little bit about the work that you do and also the city's kind of focus in that area.
Yeah, thank you, Yvette. I'm Sophia. I am the Zero Waste Manager at Baltimore City's Department of Public Works, and I run the Office of Waste Diversion, which started in 2021, so we're pretty new. We adopted a lot of the work that began in the Food Matters program in the Office of Sustainability, and that portfolio includes our food scrap drop-off location. So Ava mentioned the few that we have at the farmers markets, but we also have drop-off locations at all of our residential convenience centers in the city. And we recently got a grant to expand that in partnership with some universities to have drop-off locations at universities as well. And so we support that. I am the Zero Waste Manager, so it's a lot more than food waste. It's recycling, it's school recycling, it's household hazardous waste, it's diverting oyster shells and whatever else you can think of. But I've been really thrilled that there has been such an emphasis on food waste because it feels like my favorite place to engage. I kind of came to this work from, I like to think of it as a very healthy love for food, healthy obsession with food. College kind of broke me, and I was like, all right, let's go back to the basics. What are the things we need? We need food. All right, how do I make this sustainable? Okay, I'm gonna grow my own food. And so I started in sustainable agriculture and then kind of moved towards urban agriculture. And then I took a neighborhood soil rebuilders program with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance that did a deep dive on composting. And I started a compost cooperative in the city. I think that was in 2016, and I got to meet Mr. Marvin Hayes, who hopefully a lot of you have had the pleasure of meeting, who runs the Baltimore Compost Collective. And I couldn't shake it. I was kind of obsessed with turning something that is so often wasted into something that can affect community health and nutrition and food systems. And I started making, some of the connections between food sovereignty and land sovereignty and the land back movement and Black Lives Matter and now like Free Palestine and economic justice and collective liberation. And when I came to work for the Office of Sustainability and with the NRDC Food Matters program, I was really given an opportunity to like do that at a larger scale and make more impact. And yeah, I've been addicted ever since. And so most recently with our office, we applied for a solid waste infrastructure for recycling grant through the EPA last year, and we were selected for $4 million in funding to build Baltimore's first composting facility on the east side. So we're really looking forward to that. It'll be probably a 3-year build. So we're looking at like late 27, maybe early 28, hopefully when that'll come to fruition. And at full site capacity, it'll have about 24,000 tons per year throughput. So we're really looking forward to it. Thank you.
That's so wonderful. And we, NRDC, and I'm sure many around the country, were very excited that you all were able to get that grant, and thank you, EPA. Okay, wonderful. Well, I would next like to turn to Matt Burke, who has been immersed in food rescue in the city for many years. Matt is the founder and executive director of Food Rescue Baltimore. So Matt, I'd love it if you could just tell us more about the food rescue landscape here in Baltimore and some of the work that your organization does.
I would love to. First, thank you for the opportunity to speak on the work of Food Rescue Baltimore and some of the people that are involved that make it possible. It is a very rare opportunity that I have to talk to folks like you today, so I hope you will forgive me for wanting to make sure that I get everything in. So, Food Rescue Baltimore is a grassroots food recovery and redistribution network that holds weekly giveaways of fresh, healthy food in 12 different neighborhoods throughout the city. On any given day in Baltimore, you can find hundreds, if not thousands, of pounds of imperfect but still high-quality produce, grains, and other grocery items being given out in a wide variety of locations. A hospital, a boxing gym, a vegan cafe, a center for young artists, a library, just to name a few. Each site that we partner with reflects the belief that anyone and everyone can and should be able to serve their community. And every site has its own unique story. Like the story of Farmer Nell, a local artist, urban farmer, and educator who began attending our giveaway in Reservoir Hill in 2016, first as a recipient, then as a volunteer. Inspired and empowered by the opportunity to serve his community, Farmer Nell helped to establish our partnership with the Umar Boxing Gym in 2018, then eventually went on to open his own space. Today, Be More Green serves as a hub for local artists, a youth center, a host site for one of our Friday giveaways in the Mondawmin neighborhood. Or the story of Morgan Dominique, a young woman who began attending our giveaway at the Land of Kush in an effort to lose weight and adopt a clean and healthy lifestyle. Morgan began sharing her journey on social media and showcasing many of the healthy meals she was able to create with food from our giveaways. Then in 2022, realized her dream of opening the Sacred House Wellness Studio in her local neighborhood of Hollands Market. A few months later, when Hollands Market was on the verge of losing its only grocery store and effectively becoming the city's newest food desert, Morgan reached out to me, and we partnered to establish one of our newest giveaways, which has been operating every Wednesday for the past 18 months. Or the story of Chris Dipnerine, who founded For My City in 2018 with just a small van and a vision for sustainability. We began collaborating at the onset of COVID-19 in order to elevate our respective operations. Today, For My City operates a free grocery store in Southwest Baltimore and provides free composting services to over 7,000 residents throughout the greater Baltimore area. They remain our most extensive collaborator and greatest supporter, providing a home for Food Rescue Baltimore's operations. Almost everything I've learned over the past 12 years of doing this work has come from individuals like these who I have the privilege of interacting with on a daily basis. Ordinary individuals who, when empowered by the resource of healthy food, stepped up to become leaders in their communities, along with all the volunteers who recognized the benefits of this service and committed themselves to making the Food Rescue Baltimore network what it is today, and all of the people from these communities who attend our giveaways. The parents working hard to improve their families' lives, who need just a little help with their grocery bills to move forward in life. Those struggling with medical issues, who seek a healthier lifestyle in order to curb the effects of heart disease, diabetes, chronic inflammation, or any of the other ailments that disproportionately affect these communities. It is in these stories that I've learned the true nature of this work. We are not only curbing food waste and feeding those in need, we are using food as a tool to improve health, empower local leaders, provide a means for financial stability, and instill equity in struggling communities throughout Baltimore. So when we consider the future of sustainability here in Baltimore and around the country, we must not overlook the tremendous opportunities for positive social and economic advancement that access to healthy food can create. As we gather here today, there are countless future leaders around this city who are eager for the opportunity to serve and uplift their communities, but who are starving for the resources to do so. And it is important to remember that the words I speak to you today and the discussions heard in this building this week will not feed anyone, but the actions of ordinary individuals outside these walls on the streets of Baltimore will.
Thank you so much, Matt. And last but not at all least, I would love to turn to Shannon McDonald, who is actually not with the city, she's with the state. Shannon is a natural resource planner for the state and is also the project manager for Maryland's Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling Grant, which is SWIFR for short. So Shannon, as part of that, you are responsible for the education, outreach, compliance, and enforcement of the Maryland law on food residual diversion, and which sounds like a huge job. And so I would love to hear you talk us through what that looks like on the day-to-day, maybe a little bit more about the law, and also how food businesses are actually complying or not complying with that.
Thank you so much, Yvette. And it's really hard to follow up after Matt because he is one of the people doing the actual work within the city and throughout the state, and those are the people that are really getting the work done. So I work for the Maryland Department of the Environment. I am a regulator, and for the most part, businesses and institutions don't love when we come knocking around because we're typically telling them what they cannot do and how they must do. But we have a unique role within the state to affect the food residual diversion law, which is essentially our wasted food law, and it mandates those that produce 1 ton or more a week within a certain area that has the ability to divert, that they must divert. I know I summarized that pretty much there, but feel free to look up on our lovely website to learn more about that. And part of that is that idea of they must divert. But where they divert is really the important pieces of it. We are really stressing when we go out and do visits to these locations that the source reduction is so critical in reducing their waste. But then after that, it's about feeding people, and it's then taking that wasted food scale and looking down the line, because it's all integral within our state's resources and our regional resources as well. Maryland has roughly 6.8 million people, but about 70% live within less than a third of that space. And so when you think about the amount of demographics and the infrastructure that's necessary to support the diversion opportunities, we are really looking at amplifying that across our region. So when we go and visit the facilities, we say, you really do have an opportunity to divert to a lot of different locations. You can divert to your local food rescue. You can partner with your county in which you're located, because those are the resources that support within your area. And then when it comes to the diversion for organics recycling, we're really trying to amplify the opportunities of both community but also commercial compost, because we really need to make sure that our soils are stable and are growing and are reducing the amount of pollutants that are headed to our pristine Chesapeake Bay. We have total daily maximum loads associated with nitrogen and phosphorus. We're making sure that those environmental protections are in place to ensure that everyone within the state has the ability to have a clean environment that they can work, live, and play in. And that's our intention within the Department of the Environment of meeting that goal. We were given an executive order in 2017 to reduce, just like Sophia, lots of our different wastes. So that includes things like our metals, our plastics, but also we're looking by 2035 to ensure that all of our municipal and all our collective waste for organics is at 60% diversion. So we're really stressing that right now. We're roughly at about 25%, and so we know we have a bit of a way to go, but in infrastructure such as the Baltimore City's composting infrastructure, that's one way that we're gonna get there, and that's just one of our locations. So that's what the intention behind our Swiffer plan is amplifying those opportunities both in the state and our regional partners. And again, the only reason I say the regional piece, we're the trickle down to the south and to the west. When you think about the progressive states, we're kind of where the buck stops right now, and we want to make sure that we lead the way for our southern states and our western states.
Thanks so much for that, Shannon. Okay. All right, we are going to take some questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. And in the meantime, while we get that set up, I'm actually going to pose one question, which anyone can jump in on. But one of the things that I love about food waste work, but also makes it very difficult to do, is that food waste doesn't sit in any one specific agency or office or sector. It cuts across all of them. And all of you on the stage know each other or have worked together on something. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about, an example of how you've been, I don't want to say forced, but kind of forced to work together and collaborate on advancing some of these solutions. How do your roles or offices intersect on food waste? Anyone, please feel free to jump in.
I can certainly jump in on this. So I think that one of the most invaluable pieces of being part of the Food System Resiliency Council within the state of Maryland is that we do partner with our sister agencies, not just in the agriculture. So with the launching of the national strategy, that's our federal agencies of EPA, USDA, and FDA. Within our state, we work amongst all of the sister agencies. So the Department of Labor, the Department of Agriculture, Emergency Management, Department of Health. We are looking at all of those resources associated with reducing waste and finding opportunities for educational training within the Department of Education. So again, we're really reaching amongst all of our sister agencies to do that magnification of opportunity.
Do you want to mention the Waste Working Group?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we started a Baltimore Food Waste Reduction Working Group when we were engaging with Food Matters and NRDC. And through that process, we were able to bring together a lot of different stakeholders across the city, including some of our partner agencies, such as the Department of Public Works, to really kind of dig deeper into some of the specific aspects of the work that we were trying to tackle. And what we realized with that, it was really valuable to bring the private sector, to bring the public sector, as well as the nonprofit organizations such as Matt at Food Rescue Baltimore and others across the city, who were tackling the challenges in very different ways, but all very complementary. We realized through a lot of those conversations that the kind of really intersectional, the need to anchor that work in an intersectional way and really think about how we were speaking about food waste or food waste challenges through the lens of waste management or through the lens of environmental justice or through the lens of emissions reductions. And there's a lot of stakeholders and interested parties involved in that process. Now, Sophia has taken that work, and she can talk about how she's transforming it into a zero waste coalition for the city, bringing together a lot of different stakeholders.
Yeah, just real quick, Ava, to expand on the idea of the waste working group, it's a mayoral subcabinet as well, and so it goes across, it involves every agency in the city. And so we work very closely with the Department of General Services, who manages all city-owned buildings, who manages sustainable energy. We work with the Baltimore Development Corporation. We work with the health department. And, there are some of these things, like small haulers are licensed in the health department, but small hauler management kind of is with the Department of Public Works, or, fleet is managed within general services, but we want to electrify our fleet in Public Works. So it's like, it creates an opportunity for us to really talk to each other, and Ava was really instrumental in kind of making sure that the mayoral subcabinet got off the ground. And now we just started the Zero Waste Coalition, which we're hoping is going to be like a technical assistance, support, knowledge sharing, kind of like collaborative platform where we can select issues that are plaguing, restaurants or food producers or universities, and kind of put our heads all together and come up with solutions, bring some experts in to talk, create some business cases, help with, financial projections, things like that. So trying to bridge the, public-private gap so that we can hold each other's hands as we move towards zero waste.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. I think we have someone going around with a mic. Is that? Sorry, I can't see. Okay. Hello.
Suffering hunger, and actually is probably even worse after COVID. So yeah, the situation is very bad. But I would like to learn more about how you move far away from landfills, because in Mexico, we do not have even landfill sites. 92% is open dumps, with a lot of waste pickers over there, trying to recover all that food waste that nobody was carrying before until final destination. So for me, it's very interesting how, because in these municipalities, they have contracts that in order to sustain the business, it's like municipalities need to send a fixed amount of waste. So reduction is not a real solution, because the business is based on certain amount of waste that has to arrive to the landfill site. So how did you move from that scenario until the point where you are? I would love to hear what you have done to arrive there. Thank you.
I'll take this question, yeah. Something unique about the city is that we own our landfill, so we are not, contractually obligated to any tonnages disposed in the landfill. We also use an incinerator to burn our trash, and it is one of the mayor's pillars to not renew our upcoming incinerator contract, which expires. Yeah. It expires in, I believe, 2031, so we've got a couple years left. And it's not a put or pay contract, once again, so we're not obligated to dispose of a fixed tonnage, which is an improvement from our last contract. But really, to meet that goal of not incinerating anymore and also not landfilling, I think it's like an education and outreach and behavior change game. And my goal is always to really have that live in the culture. I want to change the culture of the city, and I want to do that by working with organizations who are already really embedded in the fabric, of the city, and who are already change makers. And so one, working on behavior change, working on culture change. Two, I think also my office establishes new avenues for waste diversion. So taking out really big things like C&D, construction and demolition waste is a huge priority for us. I think about 40% of what's landfilled is C&D waste right now in our city. And so if we can just get, a C&D MRF up locally, that could go a long way in no longer utilizing the landfill, at least in that capacity. So I will say I don't think it's like a linear path, and I don't think that it's like one size or one solution fits all, or that what works here will work for you as well. But I do think that really just like appealing to humanity and appealing to how interconnected our future is and how much our immediate environment and like the sustainability and health of our society relies on each other and on collective action and on collective effort. I love those tote bags. Is really instrumental to embedding change in society, or at least making people open to it.
Just to echo what Sophia mentioned a moment ago about the overall culture of a society, this work to solve problems like the one that you're facing, I believe almost 100% of the time it starts on the ground. You have to, it's up to ordinary people to assess how the parameters of what you speak of public policy, of governmental policy regarding limitations on how food waste can be diverted. It's up to us as individuals in our communities to assess how those parameters actually manifest in the communities themselves, and then to find real solutions of how that problem can be addressed in a way that actually makes sense to my community. But unless you're embedded in a community, unless you live there or you're there on a regular basis, you know the people, you know how those problems actually afflict them as individuals, and you know how the parameters of what you describe actually manifest in individual communities. Because here in Baltimore, it's a little different for every community, and the needs and the interactions of individuals are a little different for every community. So I think it takes people on the ground to find practical solutions to how to address the needs of individuals in various ways, and in doing so, to figure out ways around what you describe you're having to deal with in your home.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm not sure we have time for another question. Unfortunately, we don't. I'm so sorry, but I will say these panelists will be around, so please come up to them or to me throughout the rest of the summit today. I'll also just say that we firmly do believe that the solutions that are being implemented here in Baltimore can be replicated across cities in the U.S., but also across cities around the world. So excited to tell you all more about those throughout the rest of the summit, and just want to give a huge thanks to our panelists. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much to all of our panelists, and for Secretary Strickland, who kicked us off with so much energy this morning. I was worried we'd be sleepy, but we were not, because of the quality of the speakers. Okay, so we've cut in just a couple minutes into the break, but the good news is we have one session at 10:30 to 11:30, and then you have another break. So not a big deal. I think you guys can make it to lunch. Please do come back for the closing session from 12 to 1 in this room. I want to highlight the fact that when I ran downstairs to get the chocolates that I owed my friend in the corner, Jonathan from Alaska stopped me and asked about collaboration, specifically with Yvette. And he wants to get in touch with her. We're going to have a conversation about what happens after. That's what we will be talking about in the closing. How do you follow up, and what does that look like? But the other reason I mention that is because the closing panel is going to be specifically highlighting unique and out-of-the-box collaborations and partnerships, which I think has been definitely a theme all week. This work is a system-wide problem, which requires system-wide solutions. So please do come back for the closing session. There might be chocolate bars as well. And we do have lunch at 1 today. There will be a to-go option if you need to grab it and go, but please do just think about that at snack time now. Okay, so 10:30 is our one breakout session for the day. Please be there as on time, please. Okay, thank you.